Howdy folks, welcome back to the channel. So we're into June, which is always the busiest part of the year for me, and I'm pretty much just waking up every day feeling like I have 2 days worth of stuff to get done. I'm also fortunate enough to live in part of the world where the pandemic is pretty much over with, so it's been great being able to go out and socialize again, but it is just one more thing that gets in the way of making these videos. Alright, so with that aside, here are 15 albums that I enjoyed this past month, which I hope you might enjoy as well. And as always, there is a playlist in the description with my favorite track from each album. So starting us off, we have the Bamboos, and these are a Motown and funk revival act, which is pretty much the whole punchline. But these guys are excellent at what they do, and if you want that like 70s Motown funk kind of sound, but with a fresh coat of paint, look no further. 14, we have Eanna with some instrumental progressive rock, and this one's pretty far off the beaten path because it's based on like strange tangos, like dance tangos, and it gives the album a really strange atmosphere that I really just have not been able to place. It kind of feels to me like it might be the soundtrack to like some haunted mansion comedy movie maybe, or something like that. Anyway, it's a low engagement album, but it's also pretty lively and fun. It reminds me of like Scooby-Doo for some reason that I can't explain at all. And it's also got like a bit of like a tango dance feel running through the whole thing. 13, we have Rosalie. I haven't had some good chamber pop in my life for quite a while now, and I thought this one was fantastic. It's a lot of very beautiful and soothing vocal performances, which also occasionally have a bit of an indie rock edge to them as well. 12, we have Julia Cole with this month's pop country pick, and it is very pop. The production and sound design remind me a lot of that like mid-2000s era female solo act sound, so I think if you took like Julia Cole's country accent and swapped it for a more standard one, you'd just have like a Natasha Bedingfield album or something like that. 11, we have Windwalker, and this is a really interesting album. I'm pretty sure it's like inspired by traditional like southwestern Native American folk music, but it's also got a bit of a like contemporary psychedelic edge to it, and it just feels like super far out there in left field away from what anyone else is doing. And you can kind of get a gist for it from the cover art. It's like the Badlands but with a touch of peyote. 10, we have Erika de Casier. I'm not sure on the pronunciation there because I'm a knuckle dragger, but this is an R&B album, and I think the draw here is really the warmth. The instrumentation and sound design are very soft and round, and the vocal performances tend towards being like soft and nuanced rather than powerhouse. So overall, it's just sort of a delicate and somewhat old school R&B experience. 9, we have Fiddlehead with some good old high energy, feel good, summery indie rock. And these guys are pretty popular. They generally fall in with the likes of Swain, but I like them for having a bit of the like grungy and a bit emo feel of some acts like Prince Daddy and the Hyena, or maybe even like Mom Jeans. 8, we have Iceage with the other indie rock pick for this month. And these guys are more progressive than I think most people give them credit for. There are way more instruments and just creative passages on this album than you'd usually find on an indie rock album. So yeah, overall I found it just was engaging the whole way through because every track had something different and new to offer than the last one. 7 is Audrey Nuna with some hip-hop, and I'm kind of just enamored with her as a vocalist. Every track on this has some vocal delivery trick or thing driving it, like the snaky, hissing, sibilant S's in Cool Kids, or the poppy falsetto high notes in Space. I think she's just an incredibly diverse and interesting vocalist who blends hip-hop and pop singing techniques quite fluidly. 6, we have Gruff Rhys with a placid, harmonious, dreamy album. If I had to pick a comparison, it'd probably be something like Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. And this is just such a pleasant little album that'd be great for like an afternoon drink now that the weather is getting nicer. 5th, we have Lord Huron, and this is this month's folk pick. Lord Huron is one of the biggest names in indie folk, alongside acts like Fleet Foxes and Father John Misty, but he's also got a little bit of that like country Americana feel that might put him in line with some acts like Shaky Graves. So if you like those artists and you somehow missed out on this one, I'd check it out. Fourth, we have Olivia Rodrigo with her highly anticipated debut album. She has 56 million listeners on Spotify, and the big single off this album is closing in on 1 billion plays. So she is pretty much as close to a cultural phenomenon as you can get, and she's pretty much the biggest thing in pop music right now while we wait for the release of the new Billie Eilish album. Now, I wouldn't say this is a particularly revolutionary pop album, but it is clearly striking a chord with a whole lot of listeners, and it's just something you should be aware of if you follow the music scene in, like, the slightest. Third, we have Black Midi, and this thing is just wild. I think the album cover is actually pretty indicative of the experience. It's weird, it's messy, it's dense, nothing really fits together right, and yet, you know, somehow it's still just so interesting. I've listened through this a few times, and after each listen, I've just walked away having no idea what I just experienced. It feels more like a jumbled collection of cool passages, more so than like songs or a cohesive album, but that's also clearly the point. Second, we have Chloe Moriondo, and I don't have any particularly good explanation for why I like this thing as much as I do. Because at a certain level, they just took like an up-and-coming bedroom pop star and shoved the age-old fueled by ramen formula on top of her. But it also is like so perfectly fitting that I can't stop listening to it. Where Olivia Rodrigo is that phenomenon that everyone likes, Chloe is a bit more niche, and as such, I think she'll develop a bit more of a cult following. But anyway, I also have a full review on this one if you'd like to hear some more of my thoughts. And number one, come on, we all know what it's gonna be. Say it along with me. St. Vincent. St. Vincent. Yeah, what an incredible album. It is so powerfully St. Vincent, but also so different from her previous albums that it just kind of feels like one of those singular pieces of art that was like nothing that came before it and won't ever be made again. So it's definitely one of the best albums of the year, and probably will be a defining album for St. Vincent's already stellar discography. Woo! All right, there we have it. Those are my picks for May, and I hope you'll come across something you enjoy from this list. So, yeah, until next time, thanks for watching.